If you plant an apple seed, you rarely get the same apple back. That is why commercial orchards rely on grafting. They physically fuse a cutting from an existing tree onto a new root system to clone the exact fruit they want. Today, we are going to use a technique called the Whip and Tongue Graft to attach a cutting from a tree you want to reproduce onto a hardy base, called a rootstock. To do this, you need 4 things: a highly sharpened grafting knife, grafting tape, a dormant cutting from your desired tree, which we call the scion, and a compatible rootstock. Grafting knives are essentially razors. You must handle them carefully and move slowly during every cut. Moving with deliberate caution ensures you engineer a healthy, fruit-bearing tree, rather than ending up with a failed graft and a trip to the emergency room. Your tree will be made of 2 halves. The top half is the scion, which will grow your fruit. The bottom half is the rootstock, which anchors the tree and handles soil conditions. Before you make any cuts, you have to find 2 pieces of wood that match in diameter. Look for a scion and a rootstock that are both about the thickness of a pencil. Take your dormant scion branch and trim it down to a manageable length, right around 5 to 6 inches long. Matching these diameters is a strict requirement. If the sizes match, the internal vascular systems of these 2 entirely separate plants can connect and share nutrients. We will start with the rootstock. Find a spot several inches above the highest root to make your first cut. This is the face cut. You need to make a smooth, diagonal slice across the wood, creating an exposed oval face that is about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches long. You must make this cut in a single, continuous stroke. Do not saw back and forth, and do not whittle away at the wood to fix the shape. If your cut ends up jagged or wavy, just cut the stem off flat below your mistake and try again lower down the trunk. Once your rootstock is prepped, take your scion piece and make that exact same continuous, diagonal cut on the bottom end of it. The cut has to be perfectly flat. A single plain cut is the only way to prevent microscopic air pockets from forming between the pieces. Air pockets will dry out the plant tissue and kill the graft. Now make the tongue cut. Start your knife 1/3 of the way down from the pointed tip of the diagonal face cut you just made. Press the blade down into the wood, moving nearly parallel to the grain. You want to slice about 1/2 inch deep. Do this on both the scion and the rootstock. Take the 2 prepared pieces and slide them together. The tongue of the scion slips directly into the slit on the rootstock, interlocking them firmly. This diagram shows a cross-section of a branch. Sandwiched right between the outer bark and the inner hardwood is a hyper-thin green layer of cells. This is the cambium layer. For this graft to take, the green cambium layer of the scion must physically touch the cambium layer of the rootstock as you slide the tongues together. If your top scion piece is slightly thinner than your rootstock, do not center it. Push it completely flush to one side so the cambium layers line up perfectly on that single edge. Centering it means they miss each other entirely. Aligning the cambium forms the biological bridge that allows water and nutrients to flow up the stem. Without that physical contact, the new tree cannot survive. Now that the pieces are locked together, start wrapping the union with grafting tape just below the bottom edge of the cuts. Stretch the tape slightly as you apply it to create tension. Wind it tightly upward, overlapping the layers as you move past the top of the union. Once the cuts are completely covered, tie the tape off at the top with a simple knot. This wrap serves 2 purposes. It acts as a splint to hold the structure rigid, and it creates an impermeable moisture barrier to keep the exposed cambium from drying out while it heals. You now have a tightly wrapped, fully integrated graft union. The cutting and the rootstock are ready to fuse into a single plant. The immediate next step is to place the newly grafted tree into a pot or a nursery trench in your garden so it can safely heal. In this cross-section, the rootstock is buried, but the taped union sits exactly 2 inches above the dirt. If buried too deep, the top scion piece touches wet dirt and shoots its own roots directly into the ground. If the scion roots itself, you permanently lose the precise disease resistance and the dwarfing properties that you selected the rootstock for in the first place. Grafting requires strict adherence to physical boundaries and precise cuts. By mastering this process, you bypass the unpredictability of seeds and engineer a custom tree guaranteed to yield exact, perfect fruit for decades.